So hello and welcome to this video in which I'm going to be talking about the solutions to the first reading comprehension exercise in CAT 2023 slot 2. Once again, this should have slot 2 written on it. Yeah, so slot 2 video. We have already posted a video in which I have read the passage and I've talked about what is it that we're supposed to take away from this passage after finishing reading it for the first time. Watch that video first and then come to this video in which I'm going to be looking at the questions and solutions. And once again, goes without saying that before watching the video, try to attempt and solve the exercise yourself. If you watch the video after that, it will add a lot more value to help you self-analyze and figure out that where you're right and where you're wrong. Okay, so let's go to the question straight away. First question says, if the author of the passage were to write a book on the Battle of Hastings along the lines of his or her own reasoning, the focus of the historical account would be on what? So let's understand the question. Question is, if the author of the passage were to write a book on the Battle of Hastings, based on his or her own reasoning. So what reasoning does the author provide inside the passage? If the author follows that reasoning and writes an account of the Battle of Hastings, then what would he write about? So in this passage, as we had understood before itself in the reading video, is that we have to take away the fact that author does not agree that history should be only reliant on facts. That facts itself can be distorted. People can select what facts to be shown and in what sequence and what order, and then they can interpret history accordingly. And that's what historians do. So showing facts is correct, it's needed, but that in itself is not enough. Historians' interpretation of history itself is what separates a good historian from a bad historian. So the author will advocate for using their own personal interpretation based on facts. So whichever option is signifying that will be the correct answer. Let's start with option A. A says, exploring the socio-political and economic factors that led to the battle. Maybe the author would like to explore the interpretations of this battle, that why did this battle happen? What are the causes behind it? And that would be a personal opinion of the author. So absolutely A can be the correct answer because it is not just showcasing the facts. So A can be the answer. We'll hold on to it. Option B says deriving historical facts from relevant documents and inscriptions. Definitely not the correct answer. Because the author has already said that showing facts is not history. So B is not the correct answer. C says providing a nuanced interpretation by relying on the auxiliary sciences. Maybe nuanced interpretation. The author wants to show their nuanced sense of interpretation by relying on the auxiliary sciences. This can be a possible answer because of nuanced interpretation. So let's hold on to this. Then option D says producing a detailed timeline of the various events that led to the battle. Again, showing a detailed timeline is what happened after what? That is facts that we have already gotten, and the author will disagree with this. Presenting facts is not writing history. So D is not the answer. Now, when we are confused between two options, the best thing to do is go back to the passage and see that which of these has got an evidence inside it. So we know that the question is about Battle of Hastings. Let's read that part of the passage in which the Battle of Hastings has been talked about. So if I go back to the passage, this is the place where the Battle of Hastings is being talked about. The Battle of Hastings was fought in 1066, but this view calls for two observations. In the first place, it is not facts like these that the historian is primarily concerned. It is no doubt important to know that the great battle was fought in 66 and not 65 or 67, and that it was fought at Hastings and not at Eastbourne or Brighton. The historian must not get these things wrong. Yes, facts should be there, but only facts should not be present in a history book. But to praise a historian for his accuracy is like praising an architect for using well-seasoned timber. So that's the analogy which has been given. It is a necessary condition for work, but not its essential function. So again and again, the author is saying showing facts is not enough. So that is again giving credence to the fact that A and D are not the answers. I mean, B and D are not the answers. Then he says it is precisely for matters of this kind that the historian is entitled to rely on what have been called the auxiliary sciences, which is present in option C. So historians should rely on auxiliary sciences for what? Precisely for matters of this kind. This kind is which kind? The kind which he has already mentioned before. What kind is he talking about? He's talking about accuracy. Or details like it was fought in 1066 and not 65 or 67, that it was fought in Hastings and not at Eastbourne or Brighton. For things like these, historians are entitled to rely on auxiliary sciences like archaeology, epigraphy, numismatics, and chronology. So to present the facts and to ascertain what the facts are, the author can rely on auxiliary sciences. This is what the passage says about auxiliary sciences. The author does not say that we have to use auxiliary sciences for interpretation, which is what option C is actually denoting. Option C says providing a nuanced interpretation by relying on auxiliary sciences. So C is the opposite of what is written in the passage. And that's why C becomes wrong and A becomes right. This is what makes the question very difficult. If someone is of the kind of aspirant who is going to pick up something that is written directly in the passage in the context of whatever has been asked in the question and mark whichever option has got that term present inside it, they will get this question wrong. Auxiliary sciences purely being mentioned here and being mentioned in the passage in the same paragraph as Battle of Hastings is still not enough to get this question right. That's why C is the incorrect answer. Answer is option A because the author says that interpretation, personal interpretation of historical events is what a good historian should actually write about, and that's why A is the answer. It is to solve questions like these that I always recommend that you have to read the entire passage first. Never go to the questions first. Anyone who go to the questions and the options and then tries to look for the options inside the passage is bound to get a question like question number 1 wrong. And that's what makes this question definitely 100% a hard question. I know several students good students who would have marked C as the correct answer. But correct answer for question number 1 is option A. I hope this is absolutely clear. Auxiliary sciences are not to be relied upon for interpretation, whereas interpretation should be done. And A is an example of how interpretation can be done, and that's why A is the correct answer. Moving on to question number 2. 2 says, according to the passage, which one of the following statements best describes the significance of archaeology for historians? So we already read that part of the passage. Archaeology is an auxiliary science. It should be relied upon to get facts correct. Keeping this in mind, if I look at option A says archaeology helps historians interpret historical facts. Not correct. It is not for interpreting facts. It's for finding facts. So A is not the correct answer. B says archaeology helps historian to ascertain factual accuracy. Maybe. It is helping them get facts correct. Absolutely. So B looks like the correct answer already. Let's look at C as well. C says archaeology helps historians to carry out their primary duty. Author says the opposite. That is not the primary duty. They have to get the facts correct, but that in itself is not the primary duty, and that is why C is not the correct answer. D says archaeology helps historian to locate the oldest civilizations in history, completely beyond the scope of the passage. Never is the author talking about finding older civilizations. So D, everyone should be able to eliminate. Answer is B. Because I've solved A correctly, now question number 1 say correctly, question number 2 seems easy. But if again, people are not understanding exactly why auxiliary sciences are being used based on that sentence, people will get a question like question number 2 wrong as well. Not as difficult as question number 1, but I will still put it in the moderate category. Moving on, question number 3. 3 says all of the following, if true, can weaken the passage's claim that facts do not speak for themselves, except. This question in itself is difficult to understand. Which of the following options, if true, can weaken, except? Which means that I have to look for an option that does not weaken the author's opinion about facts. And what is the opinion? The opinion is that facts in itself are not enough. Just showing facts does not make for a good historian. Why? Because the author says that using facts also you can speak things that are untrue. So we have to make sure that we are strengthening the claim. We are strengthening the claim that facts are not weakening the claim, that facts are not enough. We have to prove that facts are not enough. We should not disprove that facts are not enough, which means we're looking for options that does not say that facts are enough. Okay. So difficult to understand question. So what we will do is we will look for the options which tells us that facts in itself is enough. A fact is enough to be a good historian. So let's look at option A. A says a fact by its very nature is objective, universal, irrespective of the context in which it is placed. This is exactly opposite of whatever the author is saying, and that's why A is not the correct answer. The author clearly states that what kind of facts are being presented, in what sequence, what order, all that determine what is the point that is being communicated. That's why A cannot be the correct answer, because it is the opposite of whatever the author is saying. So it is weakening the author's claim, and that's why A cannot be the correct answer. B says the truth value of a fact is independent of the historian who expresses it. Again, opposite of this is written in the passage. So B is not the correct answer, because every historian can show a different set of facts is mentioned in the last paragraph. So B is not the correct answer. Moving on, C. C says facts like truth can be relative. What is fact for person X may not be so for person Y. Opposite of option B. Exactly what the passage is saying. C very well might be the correct answer. Let's look at D. D says the order in which a series of facts is presented does not have any bearing on the production of meaning. Again, opposite of whatever the author is saying. So D is not the correct answer. Only correct answer is C. So I feel that this question is easy to moderate. I am saying moderate only because this question statement is a bit complex to understand. Anyone who's understood the question should be very easily capable of eliminating the wrong options, because 3 options are opposite of what is said in the passage. Only one option is what is said in the passage. So easy to moderate question is question number 3. 4 says all of the following describe the common sense view of history except. Common sense view is what? Common sense view is whatever the positivist said. That you should first get truth, and only when you know the absolute truth, from that truth we have to draw a set of conclusions. That is a common sense view. So we have to figure out which of these does not describe the common sense view, says that the positivists were not correct. Starting with option A. History is like science, a selective system of cognitive orientations to reality. May be the correct answer, because selective system of cognitive orientations. So we can select where our cognition can orient towards. And then based on that, we can form a reality. That's what option A is saying. May be correct. I'll hold on to it. History can be objective like sciences if it is derived from historical facts. Precisely what the positivist is saying. So that's why that cannot be the correct answer. C says real history can be found in ancient engravings and archival documents. These are the places which are used to ascertain facts. This is what archaeology is. When we are getting ancient engravings and archived documents, we are performing archaeology. So from this, if we can find real history, then that is what exactly the positivists are saying, and that's why C will not be the correct answer. D says only the positivist methods can lead to credible historical knowledge. Definitely incorrect, because this says that this is what the positivist methods are. Plus, it uses an absolute, like only. Options having absolutes will most likely not be the correct answer, and the author is being opposite of absolute here. That facts in itself are not enough. That's why the only possible correct answer is A. I will put this in the category of an easy question, because question is also pretty simple to understand. Yes, there is an except word here, but hardly contributes too much to the level of difficulty of this question, and wrong options can be very easily eliminated. So that's why the only correct answer for 4 is A. Overall, I would say that this is a difficult exercise. As far as standards of CAT papers are concerned, this exercise is not easy. I would expect a good student who is planning to get, or who's targeting to get, at least a 90 percentile or a 95 percentile in VRC should get 2 out of 4 of these correct. It is pardonable if someone says that VRC is my weakness. I'm trying to just scrape through with an 80, 85 plus percentile so that I can maximize the percentiles in the remaining 2 sections. It is kind of pardonable to get 1 out of 4 correct. Anything greater than 2 is a really good performance in this particular passage and exercise. But I feel that 1 out of 4, question number 4, everyone should get correct. And I feel 2 also people should get correct if they can read exactly that auxiliary sciences part of the passage and then understand that. Just that sentence in its isolation, even if people can understand, I think question number 2 is also something that people can get correct. If you're getting 3 out of 4 correct, if you're getting 2, 3, and 4 correct, question number 2, 3, and 4 correct, then that's a great performance. I would be really sad and flummoxed by someone who gets question number 1 right and 2 wrong. Because if you are getting 1 right, there is no reason for getting 2 wrong. So if while you're practicing this exercise and you got 1 right and 2 wrong, then know that it is a fluke. You cannot rely on your skills of solving reading comprehension exercises. Go and do a thorough sense of introspection to figure out how you can get a question like question number 1 correct and question number 2 wrong, when one's reasoning is what helps you answer question number 2 more easily. All right, that's it for this video. Stay tuned for more reading comprehension solution videos of previous year CAT papers. Thank you.